Bob's Burgers, the American animated TV show created by Lauren Bouchard following Bob Belcher, his wife Linda Belcher, and their 3 kids, Tina, Jean, and Louise, as Bob owns and runs his small-time burger restaurant and his family deal with everyday issues that first premiered in January of 2011. I love Bob's Burgers. It's one of my favorite shows, mainly because it's more of a wholesome vibe. The Simpsons once sort of had this, but as the characters got flanderized, they started going to more and more extremes. Homer went from a goofy, maybe a little slow, but well-meaning husband to an outright maniac in some episodes. Family Guy had the same sort of thing and went even further off the cliff with their violence and hatred towards each other. While Bob's Burgers has always maintained a focus on family love, close friendship, and that's really given this show a life of its own that I love. Hello, I am Reasonable Rex, the T-Rex you can trust. Bob's Burgers has been running for about 16 seasons now, and is currently premiering its 16 seasons. And the very first episode was episode 300. And this episode really hit me. It really focused in on a lot of the things I love about Bob's Burgers. Now, while I could sit here and spend hours talking to you about what I love about Bob's Burgers, we'll save that for other videos. In fact, I kind of thought about starting in the original season and going through it and talking about the episodes I like and what I don't like. And if you would like to see that, give this video a like, give me a comment. That helps me see that this video does well and you want to see more of it. But today we're just going to focus for this video on the 300th episode and why it means so much to me and why it's a perfect example of what's great about Bob's Burgers. So let's go ahead and get started. The 300th episode of Bob's Burgers is aptly titled the Grand Pre-Opening, which alludes to the joke they do every episode's intro where they show that it's the re-opening. This episode starts off with Bob attempting to raise the prices of his burgers while Linda cheers him on. He doesn't want to do it because it's a big decision, it's a change, and it kind of scares him. But Linda assures him that he can in fact do it. As he's attempting to commit to this decision, the children come home and Jean makes probably one of my favorite jokes in the episode.
You guys talking sex stuff? You should be nervous. It could change the dynamic of your relationship forever.
Linda notices that Jean is holding something and asks what it is. He says that they are borrowing for one day a mini disc 4-track recorder. This is a device that can record audio and put it into a digital format. Now, I looked it up to get a little bit more information about these, and from everything I can see, it was sort of an in-between of going from recording onto tape to what we use today, which are DAWs, or digital audio workstations. So this is a little bit of an older piece of technology that you can use to record audio, upload it into a digital format, and get it onto a PC. They want to use this machine to record a song that is all about how the burger restaurant ruined Bob, Linda, and then their own futures and lives. A little bit dark, but it's the good as a background B-plot because as they're playing in the basement, Bob can hear them and he starts to reflect on the restaurant and how he got it and how he got to where he is now. Now, I will say I don't think that any of the voice actors for the children have professional singing experience, but my god, every time that a song is produced on the Bob's Burgers TV show, it just sounds really good. Like, I know they always go for this, improvised, we use what's around us vibe for a lot of their musical numbers. Their songs are always fantastic, and for a show that doesn't have, movie budget, all their songs feel like a really good production. But as they're singing, we fade to 14 years previous, where Linda's walking down the street, eating some cotton candy, and she notices an empty building. This building is of course what will become the future site for Bob's Burgers. Interestingly enough, when she returns to their very small apartment, Bob also returns home and kind of just falls onto the bed face first. We actually get a peek at to what Bob was doing before he owned the restaurant which he was a line cook for a restaurant, making apparently a lot of surf and turf. Now, a line cook or a chef de partie is a station chef. Basically, they get an area that they're supposed to work. And in a well-run, well-maintained, well-funded restaurant, they may have several cooks helping them, or demi-chefs. However, since there are a lot of restaurants out there, not all of them are well-funded, they can't all afford to hire a bunch of professional chefs, lots of times line cooks will be left to handle an entire area on their own, which seems to be what's happening with Bob, which is why he's so exhausted, which has really been taking away the fun of cooking for him. You can see in a lot of episodes that Bob has a passion for cooking. He loves to do it. It's his job, his hobby, his passion. But this job is taking all of that away, which is a little bit of an interesting meta-commentary on starting to do something you love and how it can slowly take the love out of what you do. I think a really good example would be like content creators who make it famous off one type of content and then can never branch out. I'm pretty sure it's been stated before that Ninja cannot play anything other than Fortnite, otherwise he loses a bunch of money and viewers. So he's just eternally stuck in playing that one game and is having a hard time branching out from it. But that was years ago, maybe it's changed. Back to the episode, we learned that the reason that Linda had stopped off and seen this empty space for rent was because she wanted to go to Wonder Wharf and ride the Ferris wheel, which Bob is confused about, and we get to learn what her job was during this time jump backwards. She was a secretary or an assistant for a insurance company, and she complains that she hates it there because, as you know if you watch the show, Linda is very bubbly, she has a personality, she loves meeting new people, she loves making jokes. In this situation, she doesn't really get to interact with that part of herself. She smiles, she greets people, but they just walk on and go about their business. Also, funny enough, she mentions that she rode the Ferris wheel, and Bob says, wasn't that amusement park just in a lawsuit? Of course, referring to how terribly that place is held together. Upon looking at the space, Bob laments the fact that it's right next to a morgue, and Linda points out that on the right side is a place that sells pictures of people's pets, and remarks that it must do well. This is of course a joke because that space is always going back up for rent. Every episode it's a different business. There was even an episode where Bob almost got it so that he could expand the restaurant. I'd really love to talk about that episode one day because the one thing I love to see Bob do is succeed, and he does end up turning it down himself because he doesn't want the pressure. He's happy in the space he works in, but I would like to see more of Bob succeeding. Anyway, back on to point. We get another cameo. This is of Speedo Guy. I don't believe this character's ever had a name ever mentioned in the show. He's just a character who always roller skates by in a Speedo and will sometimes say something to the characters before moving on. Here, he's not in a Speedo and he's not roller skating. He's actually in a suit, and he talks about maybe he wasn't cut out to be a trial lawyer, mimicking the way he comes into frame, says something, and then leaves, just like the show does whenever it's not in this flashback. But after looking at the space and Bob realizing that it's perfect, but starting to feel bad about his decision, and Linda, of course, reassuring him to go do it, he meets for the very first time with Mr. Fishodor. Mr. Fishodor is probably one of my favorite characters. What a fantastic character to have, where he's just enough evil to be a landlord, but cartoonishly so. They have a short conversation, one that sort of unnerves Bob even further, with Mr. Fishodor talking about how restaurants often fail and that there are several parties lined up wanting the space, but due to Bob's mustache vaguely reminding him of his father's, that if they can get the finances lined up, then he'll give them the space, giving them just a little bit of hope. So they go to the bank, and we meet another character we know in the normal timeline of things after Bob already has his restaurant. The character is of course Mr. Dowling, who is the banker that Bob and Linda always deal with whenever they go to the bank. He is not a nice guy to them. I mean, he's very business orientated. Of course, he has to uphold the rules of the bank in order to keep the bank running, but he never wants to work with Bob and Linda. even making jokes about Bob's account inside the bank and making it a sort of an inside joke amongst all of his coworkers. But here, he is shadowing and trying to learn how to be a banker, which of course his first interaction with them is watching them get denied a small business loan by the bank itself. He shows that he is worse than the banker they're dealing with because he attempts to not give them the full amount of candy they could get, which is a butterscotch, which is a plot-related item. Trust me, the butterscotch ties into the plot of this episode. And they leave the bank a little bit disheartened. After the bank scene, we see Bob and Linda in bed together, with Linda coming up with the idea to use her condo money in order to pay for the space for them to open the restaurant. So apparently Linda had been saving money up since she was 15 to buy a condo. This is what Bob says. This is how we're introduced to the idea. She mentions that she can give it to him and support him, and he brings up that they've talked about this before, meaning she's always been willing to support him because Linda is an amazing person who is always kind and genuine. But of course, Bob is scared that if he fails, it drags her down with him, and also that it'll upset her parents for this money she's been building up for years to invest into a restaurant. There's also the side thing that owning a condo is usually a good business decision. If you don't know, a condo is a privately owned residential unit with a community. So the owner gets to own the place, but jointly owns the common areas with other owners. It's basically owning an apartment and a small street all in one. Unlike an apartment, people are not paying rent. They're buying a private area to own, which means they're going to work harder on keeping everything up and looking nice. Now, it doesn't seem like in the episode that Linda's talking about buying a condo for them to move into, because Bob mentions, "I hope you'll let me live there," and she says that he's high on the list, which means she plans to buy the entire building, open up spaces for people to purchase, which would be a great influx of money. We then get a transition with the kids singing a new song, I believe, or perhaps it's the same one, where we go through a little bit of a montage. During this montage, we see Bob disappointingly cooking while he's getting yelled at. We see Linda disappointed with her job. We see them both at home, sort of lost in thought as they try to carry out their day. We see them laying in bed, sort of thinking about everything. You can tell this is weighing heavily on them. And then we go to the restaurant where Bob has been working, which we now know the name of. It's the Tenderloin, and he is cleaning up post-shift with another coworker. Linda mentions that she wants to build something that makes people happy, something that improves the world at least just a little bit. And the coworker mentions like, "Hey, you want to be careful with your money? Maybe buy a condo," but she shuts him down. She's not hearing this. Linda then convinces Bob that let's do this together. She threatens to beat him up if he doesn't, and he decides to agree. Upon immediately agreeing, she mentions that she had another butterscotch that tasted bad. Hey, remember when I said the butterscotch was important to the plot? Well, it's because she was recommended that when certain foods start tasting off, she should take a pregnancy test. And she is pregnant with Tina. This, of course, has Bob being like, "Well, now we definitely can't," but she shuts him down. "We're buying the space. We're opening the restaurant." We get another musical transition, and honestly, they show a scene that I really love at the beginning of this little montage, where it's Bob and Linda sitting on the car while Bob's talking about the restaurant. And this is actually a scene from the movie. There's a part in the movie where Bob is defeated. He's in bed. If you haven't seen the movie, spoiler alert, but a hole opens up in front of the restaurant due to a water pipe, and then shortly thereafter reveals the skeleton of a murder victim. So he's worried about their restaurant being shut down, and Linda tells him, you know, inside of you is the guy who worries, but also the guy who dreams big, the guy who dreamed of having a restaurant. And they flash back to this very moment in the montage where he's talking about his plans for the restaurant. This scene in the montage is a little bit different because we see Mr. Fischoeder come up to, I presume, give them the keys or complete the deal. I don't know why they wouldn't complete the deal at his office, but he's there. Then we see them setting up the apartment above the restaurant where they live. They set up the couch, the crib. We see them setting up the restaurant, getting all the appliances in, getting the floor clean, getting the slip mats down. And then we go back into the episode proper with Teddy building their booths, but Teddy is crying, and Bob's trying his best not to really interact with him, but you can't just let someone sit there and cry. This is Teddy after him and Denise got separated and divorced, so he's very upset. And then we meet Mort before he has his toupee. It's often forgot that Mort has a toupee. I believe it was a Valentine's Day episode where he takes it off to show that he has a toupee. He currently isn't wearing it in this flashback, and we can see him in all of his beautiful balding glory. They have a short conversation where they decide to settle on the name for the restaurant. They haven't come up with one. Bob throws out a few killer puns, but Linda suggests Bob's Burgers. And Bob says he couldn't have done it without her, and she tells him not to worry because people would know that he couldn't have done it without her. So it's now canon that Linda not only bought the property, but also named it. Bob and Linda are such an amazing couple because of their support dynamic. While Bob can have a hard time with a lot of things, he will always jump to Linda's defense. He will always support Linda. He always tries to do right by her. He doesn't always do right by her, but he tries his best. Linda, who is very empathic, is always doing her best for everyone around her, even if she just met them. So it makes a lot of sense that the man that she loves, she would give her all in every way that she can. And this is a perfect example of how strong their relationship was 14 years before the show started, before we really seen how they developed. And they're still going strong after all this time. And this video isn't focused on why I loved Bob's Burgers. This is a perfect summary of why I do. It's because of the wholesome family values and vibes the family has. They're not perfect. They're messy. They make a lot of mistakes and they do weird things, but they always have each other. Anyway, continuing on back to the episode. Bob and Linda are in bed and they're trying to make business decisions. They're trying to think about how they're going to fund everything. He's thinking about hiring a worker, but she tells him that she'll work, but he's worrying about how pregnant she currently is, and the stress continues to get to him. He once again talks about how his stomach is hurting. There is a nice and important moment where the baby Tina starts kicking, and Bob tries to speak to her. But of course, as Bob often does, he tries to be completely honest and fumbles, and he worries that the unborn baby can tell that he doesn't know whether or not he can make it with these big decisions that they're going through. We get another musical transition. We get another montage, but this one actually has the characters having dialogue. We see Teddy painting the famous Bob's Burgers yellow and red sign. We see Linda celebrating it. Bob once again brings up that he is feeling sick on his stomach. We see them going through their daily lives, getting ready for the grand opening, setting up the price board, getting everything set and ready, while Linda seems to be going through with it fine. She's sleeping fine. Bob is lying awake. He's worrying. We see the stress of everything is getting to him, and it is about to hit the culmination of all of this buildup, the erupting point, with the grand opening of Bob's Burgers. The stress hits Bob immediately, and he has to run to the employee's bathroom and vomit because the stress has completely and utterly destroyed him. The worrying is all he can think about. He cannot even focus on cooking. We also get a cameo of two other very popular side characters, Edith and Harold Krenwinkel. They own an art supply store and they're very, very cranky, which we see immediately because Edith does not appreciate Linda's pregnancy joke and kind of yells at her. Linda does her best to help Bob get out of his funk, to pull him out of this hole that he's fallen into, but the restaurant must go on, so she goes out to take orders. We see Mort now donning his toupee, but it's not on quite right. Also, she tells him just to sit anywhere, and he takes his seat by the bar where he will sit for the next 14 years. Bob is falling apart at this point. He's getting his first orders. He can barely walk. He's afraid if he moves any certain way, he's going to vomit. And he goes out into the alleyway to try and get some fresh air to calm down, to center himself. While Bob steps out, Teddy shows up just to kind of check on how his handiwork is doing. He gets a little bit catty about Mort having a toupee. And then we cut back to Bob out in the alleyway, and he does one of my favorite things that he does as a character. where he talks to his food and has it talk back to him in a high-pitched voice. Now, this is a gag. We see him do it across many episodes, and while this is very much a joke, it also shows a lot of his character. We see that it helps him deal with tough situations. It shows that he has a plan for all the food he makes, that he has a dream for every food he cooks to be delicious, and it reflects back by him having the food talk to him about how great he's doing or how excited it is to be eaten. While it is very silly, it is one of my favorite character features of Bob Belcher, and I'm so glad to see that they put it into this flashback to his grand opening. And maybe this is the first time he did it. I can't think of any times when he was a kid or even younger and did this. So maybe this is the first time he ever did it, and it was to help inspire him to get in there and cook on the grand opening of his restaurant. Although it would be pretty funny to see him in that steakhouse talking to the steak and shrimp whenever he was having a bad day. Inspired by his raw burger patty inspiration speech, Bob returns back to the restaurant to get to cooking. We get a nice scene of Mort fixing his toupee and Teddy sitting next to him in his spot that he'll set for the next 14 years, making a joke about him just flopping it around like a Mr. Potato Head, because he had mentioned that bald people shouldn't wear toupees, they just wear hats now. With his burger inspiration, Bob manages to finally cook the first 2 burgers of his grand opening and get them sent out. And he's doing okay. He's managed the stress, and he's starting to fight through it. Until Linda mentions that he needs to speed it up because they are packed, they are full, which once again makes the stress break free. Bob does not make it into the bathroom in time and ends up vomiting all over his apron and his clothes, which he tries to wash in the sink. And Linda, trying her best to keep everyone ordered, trying to keep vamping, handing out free fries, trying to keep everyone happy while Bob gets himself together, her water breaks. This leads to a Bob donned only in underwear to lead Linda out as they're going to make their way to the hospital. Now, a few things happen in this scene that I really like. Of course, Bob is apologizing profusely to everybody that he didn't get to make more food and that he's leaving and that he's going to have to close down. But 2 little details I love is that he asked Teddy to lock up for him. At this point, Teddy isn't friends with him. He's just a person that he hired who showed up to see how his work was doing on the booths and the bar and everything. And this is like the first step to them becoming the friends that they are. Second off, I like the little visual detail of Bob setting down a wet floor sign by where Linda's water broke. That's hilarious. I love that. We cut back to the modern day for a moment where the kids have finished their album. Although Tina and Jean start to worry, what if no one else likes it? They start to reflect how Bob felt whenever he was opening the restaurant, all this stress for success for the thing they've made, which Louise immediately snaps them out of by slapping them because she is focused and fiery. Bob still hasn't changed the prices at this point and is still mulling it over. With the kids going off to upload the song, we flash back to Linda in the hospital before Tina's been born. She's talking about how she loves epidurals and she wants to get pregnant again just so she can feel it again. She mentions that Bob should probably have one, but he doesn't think that he'll be allowed to have one. Also, funny note, he is in a patient's gown because he showed up there in his underwear. Gotta love it when animators remember what's happening in the episode and it's reflected in every scene. Now there's a bit of jumping back and forth. Bob's worried once again about raising his prices, but Linda tells him that he can do it. The kids are uploading their song, but it hasn't been uploaded yet. Linda reminds him of what he said when Tina was born. We jump back to Tina being born, the process of them giving birth. And after she's born, she's in Bob's hands as Linda's enjoying some pudding. And then Linda brings up that they need to do a grand reopening, and she's worried about Bob, but he has this beautiful moment of self-reflection. It is easily one of the most beautiful moments in the entire show, and is easily the best moment in this episode. He realizes that he doesn't need to be scared anymore. He needs to be there for Tina. And I'm just gonna let him say it himself.
I thought I'd be more scared when she got here, but actually I feel less somehow. I don't have to be in my head anymore. I just have to be what she needs. And she needs me to be not scared, so I won't be.
After remembering his commitment to be there for his daughter, that no matter what comes his way, while he still may be scared, he won't let it pull him down and pull him apart because he now needs to be a father and she needs him to be a father, we see Bob finally changing the prices of the burgers in his restaurant. We get a moment of the family reflecting together in the restaurant with the prices now changed. The kids talk about their song being uploaded. They have committed to the change, and we get one last flashback. We see that Mort's toupee is working for him. Teddy's there, mentioning that he's only going to have one more burger because he's more of a burrito guy. We, of course, know that isn't true. And Speedo guy pays for his burger, wants them to keep the change because he says that it's a life-changing burger. And on the way out, the store next door, which if you remember had been a pet picture shop, has changed repeatedly across the montages and is even a different store in the movie scene that is put in one of the montages, is now a store that sells swimwear for men. Seeing a reflection of himself with the Speedo over his suit, he makes a decision that will change his life forever. And then the credits roll. In true credit fashion, the family are doing something related to the episode inside of the restaurant as Bob cooks. And these are the most beautiful and poignant credit scenes that I have ever seen in the entire show. We see Tina as a toddler taking her first steps in the kitchen, playing with some industrial ketchup and other ingredients you would find in a restaurant. We see Gene has joined the picture, with Tina playing with Gene, pushing him around in a mop bucket, or squirting ketchup and mustard together. And then Louise joins the scene. We see them playing as a small kid. We see them grow up in the restaurant. We see the memories they've made. And that's it. That's the 300th episode. The grand pre-opening. And what a fantastic episode. Let's take a minute to talk about why this episode is not only perfect as a Bob's Burgers episode, but might now be my favorite episode of the show. Okay, so if you've seen the title, you're wondering, why is this a perfect episode? Why is this the quintessential perfect episode? And while I would argue that the movie perfectly encapsulates what makes Bob's Burgers, this episode comes in at a close second. The success of Bob's Burgers can pretty much be attributed to its wholesome family values, its realistic issues, with just enough of this fantasy element where things happen not the way they would happen in real life, that creates a setting where everyone's more easygoing, more relaxed, more friendly, although there are still conflicts and problems. Bob isn't supposed to be a summary of the average modern day man working at a business he owns. Linda isn't supposed to be the summary of a stay-at-home mom taking care of the kids. And the kids are not supposed to be a representation of what it would be like raising kids today. They all have unique personalities, they are all their own characters, they all have their own struggles. And the core of Bob's Burgers is a show about struggles, overcoming them, and sticking together as a family, even when things are rough. This episode has a couple of struggles in it that are very important not only to the core of who Bob is, but also represent the show perfectly. Bob having a hard time changing the price of his burgers may seem like a funny comedic setup, but it makes a lot of sense. There's the unsaid part, which is Bob loves making food. Cooking is his hobby, his job, his passion. It's a lot to him. Like, imagine if your favorite thing you do, be it play Warhammer, play video games, draw, write, cook, make arts and crafts. Imagine if that was your job, your well-being, your hobby, all rolled into one. Not only would you want to make things that other people enjoy, you would want to make sure that they enjoy the things you make. You wouldn't want to just pump out some cheap art or some bad tasting food just to get it on someone's plate so they gave you money. you would want to make an experience that people enjoy. And then if you've created this experience that certain people do enjoy, threatening it by raising how much it costs, well, that could hurt how you feel about what you do. It would feel like you're betraying your passion for money. This is all unsaid, but the said part is that Bob's scared that this could lead to failure. What if people stop showing up because they don't want to pay that much for his food? What if people stop eating there less? Teddy is probably his most reliable customer. Can Teddy afford to buy a burger at this price every single day? Teddy's just a simple repairman that goes by word of mouth, and if we're being completely honest, his work isn't always the most stable. So Bob is stuck in this sort of frozen moment of what should I do? Then we get all the flashbacks. While these deliver a great story of how Bob reached the point that he is today, how he got the restaurant, how he started it only through support of Linda and the birth of his first child, Tina, was Bob able to come to grips with this is what he needed to do and this is how he wanted to achieve it. He didn't lose his fear, but he got the ability to handle his fear, to face the uncertainty of what if he failed, because he knew that he couldn't fail. He had people relying on him. And all of this is wrapped up in a beautiful story about how a man was supported by his wife to open a restaurant because he wanted to cook good food and his wife wanted to impact everyone's life around them positively, and they started a family in this restaurant that they opened together. I'm not gonna lie, those credit scenes where all the kids are growing up in the kitchen is very heartwarming. It brought some tears to my eyes. And while the B plot of the show may seem like it's taking away from the episode itself, as the kids are essentially writing a song about how they hate it here, it's not really what's going on. If you pay attention, the lyrics are indeed lamenting the fact that they live in a situation they're not happy with, but you see the uncertainty as they go to publish it, the worry before they make it of is this the right thing to do. Then as the episode goes on and we see the flashbacks and then the credit sequence of them getting raised in the restaurant, we realize how much it actually means to them even if they're not going to say it. Tina is the reason the restaurant succeeded. If Tina had not been born, Bob probably could have never faced his fear of failure, and the restaurant probably would have failed. He would have had a mental breakdown and been unable to serve all of his customers. While Tina, Louise, and Jean may hate the fact that they have to work in a restaurant and it's a restaurant that doesn't pull in a ton of money, they've had so many adventures together because of the restaurant. They've had so many lessons learned. How many times as a kid were you told to do something or forced to go to an activity or go to a certain place or hang out with a group and you really didn't want to? I was in the Boy Scouts of America growing up and I thought it was kind of stupid. I was like, I'm not going to go live out in the woods. Why do I need to learn how to tie knots and build a fire? But now as an adult, I look back on those times fondly. I got to hang out with people, try new things. I got to learn stuff I would never learn normally. So it's very easy to see this B plot as them complaining about the restaurant and it taking away from the episode, but actually it's just kids being kids. And honestly, that's one of the great things they do in Bob's Burgers. When you look at Family Guy and The Simpsons and American Dad, their kids and teenagers do things that kids would never do. How many times have we seen Meg and Chris actively murder people in a fight sequence? How many times have Bart gone on crazy adventures, or him and Lisa met celebrities and hung out with them and became friends with them? Those shows take place outside of reality in order to create an entertaining scenario. Some of the best episodes of Family Guy is when Stewie's time traveling. I don't think babies can time travel, but I haven't been brought any proof that they can't, so maybe that one's realistic. But when it comes to the Belchers, the kids do normal things. They go on adventures that might be, let's walk down to the wharf. Oh, hey, maybe something's going on there. And the entire episode will be them interacting with it. So let's do a quick summary and just sort of go over and one last time bring together why this is the perfect episode. We see Bob afraid of failure to face the success and make it happen of both his hobby and his dream job of owning a restaurant where he has full creative control and can make food that people likes without having to follow a strict plan or making the exact same food every single day. Bob likes to iterate, he likes to be creative. Linda wants to make people happy. She wants to build something that other people can enjoy and improve their life even if for a little bit. And she gets to do that by supporting her husband. The kids are having a time building a song to upload to hope to become famous. And even though it's a song talking about how bad the restaurant is and how they wish that they didn't have to work there or live there, Bob and Linda show support the entire time. Bob may be a little less enthusiastic about it, but at no point do they tell their kids, maybe don't do this. And so at the end of the day, you have a family who's living a normal day in their life, one afraid to raise the prices, one supporting their partner in their business decisions, and 3 kids just trying to pass the time and do something that they think they can achieve because they're still children. All rolled up in warm memories and a story about how sometimes you have to take risks, and how when people are relying on you, especially people in your family or people that all they have is you have to do the things that you're scared to do no matter what. Did you enjoy episode 300 as much as I did? Let me know in the comments below if you did. And again, I'd like to make a lot more content around Bob's Burgers. It is my favorite TV show. I could pivot to doing more TV related stuff, because this channel isn't dedicated to just gaming. My ADHD dino brain won't allow that. I would like to go through the seasons piece by piece and sort of talk about the season as a whole and go through episodes I like and dislike and summarize it. And if you'd like to see that, the best way to tell me that is in the comments, subscribing, liking. It shows me that, hey, I want more of this content. I stream nearly every day except Friday over at twitch.tv/reasonable_rex starting at 4 p.m. EST. I'm a variety streamer. I've been going through my very first ever Souls game, Elden Ring, and people can subscribe and give bits to make me have to play longer. I've put about 30 hours into the game and still staring down another 40. And the game is really hard. I crashed out last time I played it. I do other games. I've been playing a lot of Mega Bonk because I'm addicted. Please send help. This is a cry for help, please. I can't stop playing. And I also upload all sorts of content here. I also have a public Discord where you can join and hang out with very cool people. And I have a Twitter where I usually just post that I'm going live, or a